Welcome to Jelly Trumpet!
Welcome to Jelly Trumpet, making you more creative. Tips, tricks and ideas for expanding your imagination.
Hang on.
What is it, Mr. B?
Sound levels, just checking.
Haven't you made a podcast before?
No, have you? Aha, right, off you go.
You're going to cut that bit, aren't you?
Oh yes, Jim.
Welcome to Jelly Trumpet, you promise.
Of course, cross my heart and hope to be Bulgarian.
Making you more creative. Bulgarian?
Yes,
Why?
because the last time I said that I was Portuguese, and that is a tricky language.
One day, Mr. B, one day. Making you more creative, tips, tricks and ideas for expanding your imagination. Today we're in Watford, Hertfordshire. If you know Watford, we're on Casbury Park, overlooking the glacier. Is that a polar bear, Mr. B?
I believe so, Jim.
What's that yellow rag round its neck?
Looks like a Watford Football Club scarf.
Ooh, a football fan. He looks rather hot. Wait, and dare I say it, lost.
We're all lost, Jim. Ships without a compass, passing in...
Not now. Let's do it properly, eh? And cut this bit out as well.
Certainly, Jim. Mr. B, the button.
That's my line. You are Mr. B.
Yes, so I am.
Mr. B, the button.
Coming up on Jelly Trumpet! You are your own medicine. An exercise to try at home. Challenge Jim. Silly, silly, silly things. And our guest spot featuring Mr. B. Sponsored by Conversion Detectives, the really creative digital marketing agency. Search Conversion Detectives. And now, you are your own medicine.
And now a spot called You Are Your Own Medicine. What that means is only you can teach yourself to write or be creative. It's being your own creativity coach. Other people can give you ideas, but to make progress as a creative, you have to work on yourself. So keep a journal in whatever form you'd like. It can be on a device or it can be in a notebook. And write up all your creative projects. At the end of every session, ask yourself questions. What worked for me? What am I lacking in? Why was I so creative today and not yesterday? You now have a benchmark, a starting point that you can improve from. And after a while, you're going to see patterns. Patterns that encourage and patterns to avoid. Every writer or creative is their own medicine. So I write stuff, creative writing stuff. Plays, stories, TV scripts, sitcoms. Writing down what works for you when you are a creative and what troubles you, like how to get better, means you have a reference. You now have a measuring stick. That's what this podcast is all about. It's creating a way for you that's you. To build your own way of working. Find out what works for you. Build up your tools and learn from yourself. Now, I keep a database. I know I'm geeky. But you can do the same thing with a note-taking app or a written journal. When I first started using my own medicine, I found myself writing down things like go for a walk, see friends, play a particular piece of music. Seems obvious, doesn't it? Go for a walk, Jim. So what puts you in the mood? For years, I used to play Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. Always put me in the spot I wanted to be in to write. And if you know that tune, it's when the violins kick off. Just put me in this calm state. That effect did wear off after years, so I fell back on other things, other bits of music. What works for me now are things like having a window overlooking a busy street. So, being alone but near people is my favourite creative location. Now, a takeaway from this is keep a journal of how you work. Call it what you like. I call mine medicine. Record every session until you're happy. I've been using mine for years and years, and I write in it a lot less, but I now have a library of things to try, things to avoid, writing exercises, and tips I've made for myself and picked up from others. What if there was a fourth traffic light?
So, after red, amber and green, what would you have?
Blue, Mr. B. A blue traffic light.
What for?
Chill.
Where would it come in the sequence, Jim?
So, red, stop. Amber, ready. Blue, chill. Green, go.
And the purpose, Mr. Jim?
A more peaceful world, Mr. B.
Challenge at home.
Now, here's a challenge for you to try at home later. The Wildmind. And I've taken this idea from a book which we'll reference at the end of the show. And this is all about your energy. It's learning to trigger the energy that we all have. For some of us, it's passion, some it's indignation. For others, like me, it can be pure anger. It's also about shaking off the pursuit of the editor. That's the voice that inhabits your head and tells you negative things. It's not a permanent way of working. Few of us can maintain great emotions when we write. So, write down in your medicine what sets you off, what brings the fire to your game, what inspires you in that moment, the moment before you start a project. For some, it's doing a mental exercise. For me, it used to be anger. Less now, praise the Lord of writing. I'll show them, nothing like this has ever been written before. I used to get into this contained rage. You know what? Being an animal, you know what? It might not work for you. Do you know where a writer writes from? It's not the head, it's not the heart, it's the gut. And if you read that book, you'll find out why. To get to writing or being creative on demand, and this is a hardcore exercise, you could try appointment to write. So get yourself a load of paper. I used to use school exercise books. Make an appointment to write, say 6:30 p.m. At the second the time hits 6:30 p.m, you start to write and you don't stop writing for 10 minutes. When I used to do this exercise, and I did it for several months, I would get so angry. You'll find yourself writing the same words over and over, just so long as you don't stop. That's the whole point of the exercise. And some of those words, well, they'll be quite rude. Your handwriting will look like a wind-blown snake trail on a desert dune. And you may even find yourself putting so much pressure on the pen that you rip through the paper. Yes, hardcore. But it will teach you that you can teach yourself to write at the time you want. Record your successes in your medicine, your journal, and don't give up too soon. A word of warning, if you're a new writer, you may find yourself writing that you can't write. Now, let that take its course, because it will disappear. And if you feel despondent after a session, embrace the sweetheart. The sweetheart is the voice inside your head that tells you how good you really are, the best bits of you. So embrace the sweetheart for the same length of time. Now, with this exercise, I worked myself up to an hour. It was hard, and I hurt. Never thought I could write. Like I said, it's hardcore. So if you feel mentally frail, then please don't attempt this exercise. And the takeaway? So find what your triggers are to get you in the creative state. What if the United States of America invaded the UK?
I think they already have, Jim. What if there was no US TV or film? We'd watch more European stuff and world stuff, get a lot of varied ideas, new ways of looking at things.
I like that. I must watch more European stuff. Oh, and Korean and Japanese. We learn the same things with US culture. Nothing wrong with it. Just there is so much more out there which we need for creative ideas and balance. I've been terrible about watching new stuff recently, watching the same film and again. It's a comfort. I will set myself the goal of watching one world cinema film per week. And relax.
Creative Heroes.
It's Creative Hero time. And in this episode, a real throwback to someone I saw as a kid. I think it was even in colour. So we were watching like a variety show and on came Michael Bentine. And I love him for so many reasons. Most of all, turning a single object into a multitude of different props. In creative jargon, it's how you can take one thing and use it in a multitude of ways. And Michael's going to mean nothing to you if you're under about 45, but he still exists on YouTube, don't we all? Search Michael Bentine chair back routine. Well, it's a bit creaky now, but he uses this broken back of a chair to represent different props. A gun, a saw, a door, etc. How did he come up with that sketch? Well, he broke a chair while playing around in the rehearsal room and started playing with this idea of what the chair back could make. So an accident plus imagination, one thing, many uses, made a short and inventive sketch. Long before Saturday Night Live, the League of Gentlemen and even Monty Python, there were the Goons. And before that, you had the Marx Brothers, the Ritz Brothers, Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin and the Keystone Cops. So Michael, he was an original member of the Goons, but thought there was too many in the mix. So he moved on and started making his own shows, including Potty Time for kids. Michael also adored cartoons. And there's a story in his biography when he had a tiny amount of money and he met a friend. Should they go and get something to eat or go to the cinema to watch cartoons? Yep, cartoons it was. So Michael was half Peruvian and a Hertfordshire lad because he was born in Watford. He also wrote novels and he was a member of MI9 during the Second World War. Check that out. Fascinating. Anyway, one of my creative heroes, Michael Bentine. Look him up on FaceTube. What if the United States of America really did invade the UK?
Are you repeating yourself, Jim?
No, wait, yes.
Coffee break?
Oh, God, yes. Hang on.
What?
Nothing.
Oh, we should be doing the podcast, shouldn't we?
That's it. I knew we were up to something. So, if the United States of America invaded, do you know what they'd do? That's right, they would immediately ban tea, cricket and allotments. We'd be the solid-state aircraft carrier, ripe for the invasion of Russia. And of course France, where all the cheese will be directed by the US to be made either square or come out of a can. Only it won't be real cheese, will it? Oh no, it will be chemically formed and wrapped in plastic and come with a sidearm. We then have cheese barons, an underground market de fromage. Brie, camembert and roquefort would be hard-won treats. Damn you, America! So please don't vote for America. We'll lose all the cheese.
And the cricket.
Oh well.
Guest spot.
Welcome to Mr. B. Mr. B has a number of musical hats and is also a wizard. Well, not literally. He's a musician, a composer, an IT guru and software developer. Oh, and an all-round, decent, multi-talented chap. What always interested me, Mr. B, is how other creatives sort of accumulate their own tool chest, as it were, their armoury of things that work for them. And I'm thinking practically in terms of technique, and you did talk about, having a process of how you work, but I'm wondering, especially as a musical, what tools or apps do you use? Is it just pen and paper, or is it all in your head? Is there a particular piece of software?
Yeah, there is. There's a music production software called Logic Pro, and it's basically recording studio software. It's taking the recording studio with the tapes and the mixing desk and then putting it into an app on screen, and basically it's a full recording studio in an app.
So you had to spend some time learning how to use that, I presume.
Yes, but it's don't get me wrong. There's a lot in it, but you can start using it very, very easily, very, very quickly. And as you think, I've recorded this voice channel now, and I've recorded this lovely vocal part, and now I want to make it sound nicer. And so you would use the same techniques you would in a proper recording studio, but the tools are coming in plugins in Logic Pro.
Which makes me think, because it's so sophisticated, you could add so many layers to it. When do you think you're finished?
I don't. No. It's, no, I don't know when it's finished, and that's the problem I have. Is I have a real hard time letting go.
Yeah.
It's never finished. It's abandoned. I think it's
I think it's
I'm going to stop fiddling with it now. Everyone's saying, no, stop fiddling with it. I'm like, but that's a thing on the violin. There's a violin at 3 minutes and 22 seconds. There's a violin thing. I just want to fix that. I'll fix that.
Which makes me think and reminded my own writing world. I've had abandoned projects ages ago, but there's a fantastic writer called Natalie Goldberg who wrote a book called Writing Down the Bones, because one of the things that she talks about in there is the compost heap. So you may have abandoned those ideas. Yeah, because you have this sort of reservoir and it's bubbling away and it may be years. So recently I wrote something which was a short story, which I put on Amazon just to see how that went. And actually there were 3 parts to it. And 2 of those parts came from sitcoms that I've written for competitions, etc. And it completely changed when I came to it. The initial concept was there, but I changed all the characters immediately. And it worked. People had a lot of good feedback about that. So that's really interesting.
I wrote a song once. I was playing these chords on a guitar and I could hear this melody and I could hear this huge, huge, huge melody, but I couldn't quite get it. So I parked it. And like you say, I put it in my compost heap. And it was about a year later, I went back to it and realised that I was playing the same chords in the wrong order.
Oh,
but that act of bringing it out from the compost heap and accidentally getting 2 chords around the wrong way, that actually forced the melody to come out.
Isn't it interesting how such little changes For you, you're talking about a melody and changing the order. For me, it was changing the characters. So I want to move on to illumination. How often, as a creative, do you have a eureka moment where you go, ba-doing, fully formed idea?
Oh, not very often. They're the rare ones. As I mentioned about JB, John Beeson, earlier, he just he sneezes and out comes a new song. Whereas, for me, it's much more a laborious process. With me, I'll have an idea, a prototype idea. It's basic. And then what I do is I will strive and labour for hours and hours and hours to expand that. Yeah. And sometimes, just sometimes, something useful comes out of it. Yeah. But most of the time, it ends up going into my compost heap. Some of the music I've written, I've got this beautiful intro, beautifully orchestrated. I've got a verse pattern, and I don't know where to go for the chorus. I get myself blocked, and so I just put in the development ideas, park it, forget about it, leave it in the compost heap, and hopefully at some point I'll come back to it and finish it off. So are you getting better at that, about leaving ideas and going, right, I've hit a brick wall, I'll just put it away in my development ideas, and maybe it'll come back to me? I think so, but I think it's easier to do now. Yeah. Whereas before, I would probably spend a lot longer agonising over trying to get something working and force myself to try and finish it. Yeah. Whereas now I've realised that the safest thing to do for everyone is just to leave it. Just leave it and move on. One of the other things that I'm very keen on is being your own medicine. Because you're a natural creative and you have this ability to hold music in your head, which I find like magic, like you're a wizard. So for me, I and I'm doing less of this now, is that I've created processes and they've bogged me down a lot. But I do have a list of all my things that have worked for me. So I went through years of this, is writing down after every creativity session, writing for me what worked, what didn't work. And it became very simple, and not always, but mundane things. Like for many years, I listened to the Verve Bittersweet Symphony. And there was something when the violins kick in, it's just like voomf, and I'm in a certain space and I can write. And it worked for many years. It doesn't now. But now I don't need that. You get to that stage when you learn to write and make an appointment with yourself to write, and you know that you can write on time. Yeah. Do you ever record or think about, well, my creativity worked better because of this, because you went for a walk or because you were talking to people? Yeah, I think I addressed it earlier when I said about the fact that, with music, it's about the core, it's about the structure. So whenever I get an idea, the first thing I have to do is I have to put down the bass notes, so I get the roots, so I know what key it's in. Right. I know whether it's a major or a minor. I have to get the beats in place so that I know what the rhythm is going to be. That's the building blocks. Yeah, it's not a case of there's a set of rules that I follow every time. But for me, I just find it easier if I've got the melody and the chord structure to put down the bass, to put down the rhythm, so I know what the groove is going to be. I'll try exploring in different directions. Like I'll try something electronic, I'll try something with strings and pianos. I'll try various things, but I've got to get the bass down and the rhythm first. That's my only rule in terms of producing music or writing music. It's the foundations are there, and for me, it's mathematical. It's simple maths, and if you can distill it down to the purest equation. There you go about maths, and maths being beautiful again. You are weird. What's the best thing someone has said to you and that kept you going when you found it a struggle? Have you ever needed that? Have you ever needed encouragement from other people and say, well, that'll keep me going? Because you're always very, not self-contained. I've always said you're like a natural Taoist. You just are. Yes. You don't need that sort of encouragement. You don't have down moments where you think, "Well, do I really carry on with it?" I do. I guess like every single creative in the world out there, at some point you will doubt your own ability. You will doubt your own capabilities. You'll doubt yourself. The great thing about the circle that I have is that I can come up with an idea, I can demo something, and I can play it to friends. I'll play an idea to John and say, what do you think? And I know that he will give me a completely honest, completely brutal opinion. But he knows it's an opinion. I know it's an opinion, so I'm not going to be offended by it. Yeah. But I would much rather somebody like John say to me, really early in the process. That's not working, and here's why it's not working.
Yes.
Because it might be a perspective that I don't have. You do rely on that as a bit of a crutch when you're doubting yourself and or doubting the idea that you have. It might be, I like it, but I'm not. There's something I don't like about it, and then they just said, also, when they all say, no, don't be silly, it's great, keep working on it. Then that gives me the little boost I need just to keep going, to keep pushing.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, if you ever get stuck on a project, and you talked about, well, just abandon it and put it in the compost heap. What do you do if you're on a project, you really like it, and you know that you want to finish this, but you get stuck?
That's a really good one. If I want to finish it that badly, then I will probably compost it for a very short time and do something completely different to distract myself, cleanse the palate, and try and come back to it. If it's something creative, I don't feel like there's a deadline as such. Yeah. So essentially, I won't force myself to say, right, I've got to finish this. I won't put it. I will not put a deadline on something. If it's not ready in time, it's not ready in time.
What's the proudest you've ever been of one of your ideas?
I don't really feel pride. I feel relief.
Well, for every project you do, you just feel relief. I haven't abandoned it. I finished it. Move on.
Yeah. It's done. It's like, next. I just relieved this thing's done. Yeah. And it sounds, 90% to what I heard in my head. I don't think I feel particularly proud about my creative works as such. There's a little bit. They're your children in one respect. So
yeah, but you have to kill them.
I love them all equally.
Yeah, you love them all equally, but William Faulkner said, which is another classic line I love about writing, he says, you must kill all your favourite children.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I killed them by abandoning them.
Or abandoned them. It's better than killing them, isn't it? So you're marooned on a desert island. Which 3 things wouldn't you want on your desert island?
The sun.
The sun? Oh, because you're not...
Yeah, I'm a bit of a vampire. Wildlife.
So... yeah. I'm restricting ourselves
things that might eat me.
Things that might eat you, yeah, that's very sensible. One more thing. Can you think of anything else you wouldn't want sharing your precious space?
What wouldn't I want? Football.
Football. Okay. All right. So there'd be no Premier League or any of that? No round balls? No round balls?
No round balls.
Oh, thank you. How can a listener get in touch with you if they're interested in your music?
Well, we are on social media as We Paint Houses. So that's we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. I think we're on Twitter as well. So it's basically just search We Paint Houses, all one word.
Cool.
You should find us. And we're also available on Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music.
All good streaming.
All good streaming services, yes.
Name 3 things you can't do without. I think we've done this, actually. Because I know
coffee. Coffee is one.
Yeah, coffee.
Coffee, music. I cannot do without music. Family.
And family. All nice. You covered all the bases there. It includes coffee. Right, final question. If a 10-year-old asked you, what one thing would make me more creative, what would you reply?
A pen.
A pen.
You can do anything. You can draw with a pen. You can write with a pen. Yeah, a pen is the start. The number of times I've written a song just with a piece of paper and a pen.
Fantastic. I think I agree with that one wholeheartedly. Well, Mr. B, it has been an enormous pleasure, and I've learned a lot from you. So thank you very much for taking time out to come and talk to us at Jelly Trumpet. See ya.
Very welcome. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Just popping into the studio is Arthur-Maurice. How are you doing, Arthur?
Aye, Jim. Can't say fairer than nout.
Is that a leather apron you're wearing?
Aye, I need one for my work.
Which is?
Butcher. Butcher to the stars.
Can you tell us any stories perhaps about your star customers?
That Harry Styles loves to be up to his elbows in offal. Ed Sheeran, he's a sausage-mad bitch. He calls them his little bags of meaty mystery. And then there's Rita Ora's black pudding parties. Don't get me started on Little Mix and their beef ribs and pork chops celebration dances.
Thank you, Arthur-Maurice.
Pleasure, lad. Pleasure.
Challenge Jim!
It's Challenge Jim time.
Every episode, we challenge Jim to do a creative exercise so that he may improve on what he has. Jim, the challenge this episode is write a story using only 6 words in 1 minute.
6 words? Oh, this is like that thing on the web that's supposed to be Ernest Hemingway. Baby shoes for sale, never worn. Right, okay.
Okay, so your time starts.
What?
Now.
Oh, right, okay. So it's like the Hemingway thing, which I like. Baby shoes, for sale, never worn. So we need, we need 3 acts. So we need probably a man and a woman. So we'll go, he bit, she cried.
45 seconds.
He arrived, she left. Oh, that's quite strong, isn't it? He arrived, she left, Marmite.
Not dramatic tension there.
Okay, yeah, you don't get much dramatic tension in Marmite, do
30
you?
seconds.
Unless you don't like Marmite.
Love
He
Marmite.
arrived, do you? Oh, right. She left. I like it. No, right. He leapt, she jumped over the moon. Right. Oh. He arrived.
15 seconds.
She left. Buttercup? No.
10, 9. Come on, Jim.
I'm coming.
8,
I'm going to get in there.
7.
I like this.
6.
He arrived.
5.
She
4,
left.
3.
Good dog.
2. 1. Time's up.
What do you think? Is that good? He arrived. She left. Good dog.
Nice.
Oh, well, we'll keep that in then.
Hot topic!
When I was learning to write, I used something I called the frontier form, and it was just a Word document, and it had 3 main columns. Column 1, things that are similar. Column 2, the frontier. And column 3, things that are opposite. So I'd get an idea or a topic that had to be written out, say something like 2 people in a pub, and I'd fill in the columns, what's similar and what's different, and I would do 10 to 25 of each. Then I'd use the frontier column to list ideas that were potentially funny by combining the opposite and the similar. There are also a few other headings at the top of the page to act as reminders, so things like people and places, things, events, language, and then notes. And these headings were to help focus on particular things I wanted to cover. So it was a listing stuff that would lead to ideas. Creation is sometimes just holding 2 opposing ideas or things that don't normally go together. Anyway, this was a formal process which worked for me. So once you learn if you can do it in your head or without the need for the formality of the form, and so hence we get a butcher to the stars and a meat they love. Amen.
Go ahead, caller.
Is that Jim?
Yes, it is.
It's Hank Jim, remember? Professor of Liquid Creativity at the University of Groningen.
And the reason for your call?
I wish to complain about the amount of meat on the shoe.
I see.
Yes, with the climate out of control, the promotion of men.
My bacon fat covered fingers must have slipped.
List of the week!
Now, I love lists, and I love animated movies. So here is the top 10 animated movies of the 2000. It's a list I've taken from the IMDb, owned by Amazon, now you know, and what I think of them. So, coming in at number 1, Finding Nemo. Okay, I suppose. Number 2, The Incredibles. Don't remember much of that one. I enjoyed it, though. Number 3, Wall-E. Utterly charming. Loved that. Number 4, Up. Oh, man, I love that movie. Brilliant. Squirrel. Persepolis at number 5. Not seen it, but I'm going to put that on my list. Number 6, Lilo and Stitch. My daughter thought it was okay, not seen it myself. Number 7, Spirited Away. Not seen it, but it's on the list. And number 8, Chicken Run. Not in the same league as Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit, in my opinion. Number 9, Happy Feet. No thank you. And number 10, Mary Max. Not heard of it, but I'm going to give it a go. So that's my list of the week.
Further thinking spot.
We mentioned Wildmind at the top of the show. This is taken from a book about writing, but it will make you more creative, called Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. It's full of short chapters and writing exercises that you can dip into. One of my top 3 books about writing of all time. Join us in further episodes and be more creative. Pick up tips and tricks you can put into play instantly. Try exercises to boost your imagination. Listen to creative guests and a whole lot of what we call fun. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or ideas for Jelly Trumpet, email us jelly@jellytrumpet.com.
That was Jelly Trumpet, making it more creative with Jim Kinlock and Mr. B. Sponsored by Conversion Detectives, the really creative digital marketing agency. Search Conversion Detectives.
Now here's Mr. B playing us Breathe by We Paint Houses, a melodic rock band. Find them on Facebook. Well, I think hat went well.
Say that again?
Well, I think hat went well.
I see. What you need, Jim, is some tea.
I said, well, I think that went well.
It did. Now about the squirrel.
No, Mr. B, we're not encouraging a squirrel to play drum solos on our podcast.
Not even a couple of simple taps?
No.
Quick tap on the snare drum?
My word is final. Give him the sticks.